Good afternoon, Chuck Morse, Monday through Friday, 12 noon, live on Facebook, available on YouTube, and all of the syndicating outlets. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm actually going to do a live program. My guest today had to leave in an emergency situation. I pray for him, the safety of his son. There was some situation which involved him rushing to his son in an emergency. Obviously, as a parent, I appreciate that, and I just hope all goes well. But meanwhile, I'm doing a live experiment here, and you can call in 617-271-5044 and join me if you like, 617-271-5044. Firstly, I want to mention that I did have the opportunity to watch at least about halfway through of the Tony Awards last night. My wife is into this, so she wanted me to watch it with her, so there I was, like a dutiful husband, I suppose. And I thought it was good, but about halfway through, I started to doze, so I ended up excusing myself and going to bed. But so I missed the Robert De Niro rant, where he yelled out, "Fuck Trump," at the very end. Oh, and everybody stood and they applauded. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Such a brave act. The left loves to, by simply throwing out a slogan, they really feel they did something important. In this case, obviously disgracing the nation and themselves, and thinking that it was cool. But the one I did see was at the beginning when Andrew Garfield, he was an actor in Angels of America, which I think is Kushner. Kushner was the producer. He went into a rant about Trump without mentioning his name, a very kind of smarmy, innuendo-filled, double talk type deal. Very well rehearsed, where he talked about these horrible times we're in, and we should wring our hands with horrors. Oh my goodness. The fact that, and we all know what that means, wink, wink, it's Trump's presidency. These times of hatred and bigotry. I don't know, the only hatred I've seen is from the haters and the bigots on the left. But they continue to pound away at this and hold Trump up and the rest of us up to a microscope if we don't goose step to the left to try to find out whether or not we have anything against, black men and women or any other group, any other racial or ethnic group. And of course, what the big cause of that was railed against was the Mastercake decision by the Supreme Court, which basically permitted the baker in Colorado, the Mastercake Bakery, to not create a wedding cake with the symbols of a gay marriage on it. Now, this was a decision, by the way, which they don't mention. That was, it was not close. It was, I think it was 6-2 or 7-2, with Justices Elena Kagan and Stephen G. Breyer, both appointed by Barack Obama, Kagan by Obama, I think Breyer by Clinton, both of whom were very left liberal justices who sided with the majority in that decision. And this is seen as having something against gay people, which, I would argue that it's actually in favor of freedom, which makes it in favor of gay people, just like anyone else who would have the creative right to create whatever product they want to create and not be told by the government that they have to create a product a certain way. This is a freedom issue, in my opinion. We could get into that, but I think the gay movement, they want to have freedom, and they should have freedom in the same way that any other movement offers it. But in the case of forcing businesses to officially recognize the gay marriage and actually create things that would support that I would hope they would understand that is a step too far, that would be a loss of freedom that could boomerang on them. What if they ended up having somebody come in who, I don't know, hates gay people and wants a gay baker to create a gay hating cake? I mean, I don't know. We could give 100 examples. What if you had a neo-Nazi wedding, and the baker is Jewish, or the baker cares about this, and they come in, they want to have a cake created in the shape of Hitler's mustache? That to me, it's an essential freedom issue. By their forcing the baker to create a cake in their image, unlike cakes that he was creating, they were asking the government to get involved in the business of creating things, in the actual function, to a level that had never occurred before, and would have been an unprecedented loss of freedom and loss of rights for the individual. Now, I understand they don't like the fact that the baker objects to gay marriage. Fine. Let them not go there. I mean, he wasn't telling them they couldn't come in and buy a cake. That is illegal. That would be a violation of the, of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. They were allowed to come in, and they could have bought any cake they wanted. They simply were ordering the baker to create or to do something to indicate that it was a gay wedding, which is where the baker said, that's not what I'm doing here. I'm doing conventional marriage, which is his right. And if they don't like it, they can go to another baker. They could protest. They could boycott. We're free to boycott. I may despise the Jew-hating anti-Israel boycott movement, and I'm going to get into that as my second issue. But they have a right to do it in this country, at least in the private sector. We have a right to tell the government they can't participate in it, and we have a right to boycott people who are boycotting. Like, for example, I will not do business with a company that supports boycotting Israel because I don't want to do business, give my business to Jew haters. That's my right. I generally don't like boycotts, by the way, but I understand it. I respect it. I remember back in the 1970s, I was a little kid, and there was a brief period of time, I think it was in 1974, when ExxonMobil decided to boycott the state of Israel because they were being pressured by OPEC and by Arab nations. This was during the Yom Kippur War, to cut off business with Israel. And I remember there was a reaction among the Jewish community of America to boycott Mobil oil. And at that time, my mother used to get gas from a Mobil station somewhat near where we lived. And we were heading toward that station, and we were very low on gas. And she suddenly realized that she could not go there because they were Jew haters, because they were boycotting Israel. And so she said, we're going to go to another station. And then she kept driving. Don't forget, this is the day before the cell phone, and, we were terrified. We thought we were going to run out of gas. I just remember that experience. It left a big impression on me. But anyway, getting back to the topic of Andrew Garfield and his rant. I mean, are we really living in such horrible, hard times because Donald J. Trump is elected? If they don't like Donald J. Trump, let them put up another candidate and let them try to win the midterms and let them defeat him in the next election, instead of, supporting this deep state agenda to try to depose him like we're a third world dictatorship. Or instead of ranting about, he doesn't like black people, because first of all, I don't recall him ever complaining or saying anything negative about black people. And his response to that has been quite brilliant, actually, which is that black unemployment is at the lowest level since records have been kept, and that the polls indicate that he's increasing his stance among black communities, particularly black men. So it's a highly debatable issue, and it's not the usual tool of the left to have us assume that because someone doesn't genuflect to the left, they therefore have something against black people. I don't think that they can rely on that. In fact, as they go toward the midterm, I don't think they have much to rely on at all. The only thing they have going for them is Stormy Daniels, a hooker that Trump probably slept with 10 years ago. That's about all. Anyway, let me get on to my next subject here. And by the way, you're welcome to call in. 617-271-5044. And that is this ongoing Jew-hating movement in the city of Newton, Massachusetts, which is right near where I live in Boston. Very wealthy suburb, a pretty predominantly Jewish population there. I wouldn't say predominantly, but a high percentage. And they continue to have in their schools a Jew-hating materials, or curricula. And there's been this group called Center for Americans for Peace and Tolerance, Charles Jacobs, who's the head of it, who has been active in trying to get the school to open up and show the public what this is about, what's going on. And the school committee there has refused to do so. And by the way, we should point out that Newton School Committee, there was an article done, I don't know if it's still true, this was a couple of years ago, showing that, I think it was a column by Tom Mountain, he's a columnist in Newton, showing that I think at least a dozen people are earning over $100,000 a year, including the shop steward for the union, who is not a teacher and who gets a house. So we're talking about a pretty wealthy group. I mean, these are well-heeled people. And that's fine. That's Newton's business. I mean, it's a wealthy community. If they want to do that, they have the Newton North High School is among the most expensive schools in the nation. It's huge, and I think it cost $200 million to create. Anyway, this is the article that Charles Jacobs sent me. I'm just going to read it as is, because there's going to be a protest tonight in Newton to try to open this thing up. It's called Join Our Protest. This Monday, the Jewish community was promised by the Newton School Committee that all offending Middle East curricula would be removed from the schools until new materials vetted by professionals could be secured and created. This promise proved to be false. APT's public request for information, that being Americans for Peace and Tolerance, revealed that the same sort of materials we had protested for over 5 years was still being taught by 4 teachers at Newton South High School. Worse still, we have just discovered that on May 2nd, 2018, the entire school at Newton North was treated to a day of anti-Semitic Israel bashing. On that day, Newton North High School students at a school-wide assembly was shown a virulently anti-Semitic film, Ishmael, sponsored by a Jew-hating extremist organization. The occasion was Newton North's second annual Middle East Day. The school decided to partner with Ali Abu Dima. All right, now just for disclosure's sake, I've interviewed Ali Abu Dima. Must have been many years ago, and he is virulently anti-Israel and brilliant. I mean, very good at it. Anyway, he's got his Boston Palestine Film Festival to screen a propaganda film portraying Jews as Nazis. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you would have seen the Nazis themselves do in World War II, really ugly, vicious, hateful stuff. Ali Abu Dima is known as the purveyor of the anti-Semitic website Electronic Intifada. The Forward calls him the rock star of the Boycott Israel movement, who is trying to start an electronic intifada on American college campuses. Actors portrayed Jewish soldiers and Palestinian families. The Jews beat innocent-looking Arab families with their rifle butts, yelling at them to move faster as they drive them from their homes, just like Nazis did to the Jews during the Holocaust. The message: Israelis are today's Nazis. This is the main theme of Arab Islamist propaganda. Newton students are being led to believe it. So this rally is tonight, Monday, June 11th, at the school committee in Newton, 100 Walnut Street, Newton. You can park in the back. And please bring your cameras. I might go to that. We'll see. I'll see what's going on. But that, this is, of course, part of what's going on nationally at this time with the Jew-hating movement, which is making inroads. Look, there's always been Jew haters out there. It's a movement that waxes and wanes over time. Right now, it's on the ascendance. And that includes making inroads among the Jewish community itself. You've got the so-called Jewish Voices for Peace, which is as viciously anti-Israel as anything you could find in the amongst the Arab Islamists, who really are openly against Israel, of course. I mean, they want to destroy Israel. I don't think they make any bones about that. But, the Jewish Voices for Peace like to couch it in peaceful sounding language. Like, we want to have love and fairness and, a multicultural, democratic state. Why do they choose Israel for this? That's interesting. Why not Iran? But anyway, putting that aside, they hate Israel for the same reason that they hate America. And if you scratch the surface, you'll find that they don't like nationalism. They don't like the idea of the nation state. They view that as undemocratic, when in fact, quite the opposite. It is the ultimate expression of democracy, because it is a group of people asserting their right to control their own destinies and their own lives and their own culture to a certain extent. And, they imply within that they therefore are going to be discriminating against minorities, and that can be true. Certainly can especially be true in a hyper-nationalist state, like Nazi Germany, or some socialistic state like Nazi Germany. But in the case of Israel, it is not really true. Not true in the United States either. I mean, maybe it has been traditionally, but it hasn't been for the past maybe couple of generations. We've moved away from that, where you have like an ethnic nationality. Israel is a Jewish state, unlike the United States is not. That is what Israel is. But they respect their minorities. They could do a better job at it, but their record is pretty good in terms of respecting their Arab minority and other minorities. So they're just against the idea of the nation state because they believe in a one world ant colony. They're communists. They believe that everything should be de facto equal. And they also hate Judaism because it believes in God. And they're radical atheists. They don't believe in anything. A lot of the Jewish people involved in this are very misguided people. And are very, emotionally, and not to mention spiritually devoid of any kind of objective understanding of what life is all about and what's best and what is actually genuinely progressive. Anyway, I want to thank you for listening this afternoon. I shall return, God willing, the usual time. In fact, tomorrow I have Saga Sangari, who is on the show, who is with a Christian militia group in Iraq that is trying to work with the Kurds to help keep ISIS on the ropes. It's a very interesting man. So thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great afternoon.